Where did you go to college and what was your major?
Well, I went to UNC Wilmington, 74 to 78. Major, what do you think? Biology.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. Then I went to Wake Forest later for grad school, but my undergrad was UNC Wilmington.
Thank you. How did you get interested in teaching?
Well, I wasn't originally interested in teaching. Originally, I went to UNCW to go into marine science, marine biology, and I planned on being an ocean explorer, ichthyologist or something like that. As I got more and more into it, my advisor down there told me he suggested that maybe I might want to change my major to regular biology. At that time, there wasn't a whole lot of jobs in marine biology. This was the 70s. And I really never really planned on going into teaching until my senior year and started thinking, what am I going to do for a job? And a couple friends of mine were taking some education classes, so I decided to try it out, liked it. Still here 36 years later, I'm here. And I have to say I've really liked it over the years. I don't think I would have stayed 36 years if I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm. When did you start teaching at Bishop McGinnis?
This is the only place I've ever taught. 1980. That's it.
Okay. How long have you been teaching at Bishop? You just answered.
Yeah, pretty much 36, 37 years from 80 till the present.
How long were you in the other building, the older building?
20 years. I mean, we were there from 1980 and we moved here into this new building in the year 2000. So we were there for 20 years. Interestingly, my wife went to Bishop, and she went to Bishop and graduated high school in 1974. And it was kind of cool for her when I got the job there. Her dad helped me get the job at Bishop, actually. Her dad had some connections with the principal, and they had an opening in biology, and he kind of put in a good word for me to help me get the job. And it's really interesting for my wife to walk around and kind of look at Bishop after she had graduated a few years before. The first room I worked in was actually, they had a class called Home Economics. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
They called it Home Ec. And they taught things like cooking, sewing, sort of household skills, I guess you could say. So that was the science lab back then, was actually the old home ec room. So the lab kind of looked like a kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
had kitchen cabinets and kitchen counters and such.
So what was the building like?
Well, the building was, I think it was built in 5960. So, like most older buildings, it was old, but it was really solid, still solid. I have to say, Our Lady of Mercy has done a great job. I don't know if you've been over there. Probably not. You don't go to Mercy, do you, David?
Mm-hmm.
No. I think it's really cool how they were able to keep the building in the Catholic school system. And Our Lady of Mercy, I know they put invested a lot of money into building the new church there at Mercy and also renovating the school building. So even though it's been renovated and kind of upfitted, I think it's kind of retained the original character. I don't remember it being overcrowded. At that time we probably had 250 to 350 students, 250 to 350. So it was 2 stories. It was only built with one science lab, and that's where the chemistry was taught, and that was kind of the traditional science lab. So as I mentioned earlier, some of the other rooms, they had to kind of renovate them and sort of upfit them. So the biology lab, they put some new tables in and such, but it still had that kind of feel from the 1950s and 1960s.
You're going to hand over that question.
Mm-hmm. Next one is, has it changed since last you worked there?
You mean the building, or
Yeah,
you
the
mean
building.
like the atmosphere of the school, or maybe both?
Both, like the building that you used to work at?
it was exciting when we moved to the new. It was controversial, and It upset some people when we moved to the new school. Some people saw it as Winston losing their school, and Greensboro is going to get the school. It's going to be more convenient for Greensboro than it is for Winston. And I remember hearing a lot of that kind of grumbling and negative talk. And, it hasn't really played out that way. And I think they did a good job of finding a site that's pretty central and it's pretty even from both places. Yes, it's somewhat of a drive, but it's really not that bad. And that was a little testy back in the day when we first moved. But it was kind of cool coming over here. It's like I've never built a house. I don't know if you guys ever built a house with your family where you built a new house and kind of gone out there and checked on it. You go like every week and check on it. That was kind of neat to see. They actually gave us teachers some input on the, not so much on the design of the building. I have to say Mr. Repass, he was really instrumental in the design of the building. He had a vision in his head of what he wanted, and they built it. And I think it's very well designed, the way it is with the courtyard and everything and the way things flow. But we had some input on like the labs, how those would be set up. And I know the art and music people had some input. And, that was kind of neat that they actually listened to what we had to say. As far as the atmosphere of the school, like the feel of the school, I don't have the best memory, from the 80s. It's a long time ago. But to me, it pretty much has the same feel. We still have solid families. We got good students. We have our issues, but we still have a strong Catholic presence. At the time I started, we had 7 nuns, and they taught all sorts of classes. I remember we had a nun teaching chemistry. We had a couple nuns teaching math, English, religion. I mean, they were in all the departments. And over time, we've had fewer and fewer nuns. But even without as many sisters present, it still has a good straw. I think the religion department has done a great job, and the peer ministers, that's been a great program. So it still has, to me, it still has the same feel. Still strong academically and strong spiritually.
Mm-hmm. The next question is, did you have Mass at the old school, and if so, where was the Mass held?
We did. I don't think we necessarily had it offered up weekly like Father Vince will offer it here most every Wednesday before school. I think the Mass schedule was very similar to what it is now. We had it at the holiday times, the holy days of obligation. I don't remember us being off school. Like, for example, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception of Mary. I believe we went to school that day, but we just had Mass at school. Mm-hmm. Now you guys seem to have those days off sometimes, so that was a difference. But we had Mass, very similar schedule, holiday times. There is a chapel at Mercy, and it would hold, for a time it held everyone, and then when we got up into the 300s, I think we had to have it in the gym like we do now. Mm-hmm. I know that, interestingly now, Mercy, when they did the renovation, the former chapel has been converted into the library, and then they have a brand new church, so they just go there now for church. Okay. Sometimes I wish that maybe they built a bigger chapel here, that would accommodate everybody. I remember them talking about that, but the plan was, and they stuck with it, they're going to build it, it's going to be big enough to hold like one class, just seniors or freshmen or whatever. I think it probably came down to money. It was just going to be too expensive to build one that would hold, 500 or 600. Yeah. So they went with, and it's kind of nice how they have the current one is really incorporated into the building. It really is part of the building.
Yeah. What do you miss most about the old school compared to the new one?
I really don't miss anything. I mean, for me, when I first started teaching at Bishop, I only lived 5 minutes from the school. Yeah. So, I could almost walk there. Now, it's a different issue. I'm not Tom.
No.
Blabbing on so long.
No.
now, of course, I've loved driving the bus, and I think that's been a good thing, to help make it convenient on the parents and help draw students, the bus driving. And so now I'm driving an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon, but that's my 3 places that I'm going. I don't even really give it a second thought. Sometimes if it, like on a Friday, or if it's been a long week or something, I'm like, gee, I've been going since, start out before 7 and get home at like 5:30. I'm like, dang, man, it's a long day. But most days I don't think that way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, shorter drive, but like I said, it's not really an issue now. I can't really think of anything else. I certainly don't miss the actual room I was in. This is 100 times better, the way we have this set up here.
I know one person already, but did anyone else teach in the other building with you who is still teaching here, or who was still teaching here when we weren't here?
Mr. O'Meara. I'm trying to think.
Didn't Miss Kennedy?
Mrs.
But she's
Kennedy.
not. Yeah.
And this is just the way it goes with education. I'm sure it's the way it goes with most jobs. You can work somewhere for a long time. Everybody knows you. They know your name and everything. But once you go, you give it a couple years, nobody's ever heard of you. I mean, yeah, they might have there might be a plaque on the wall, but nobody's really going to know who you were. And it's funny because I was just thinking, I don't know what made me think of Mrs. Kennedy yesterday. I think I was thinking about some Latin terms or something. And she's awesome, and but only a few people know. And as the years, give it a couple more years, nobody will know.
Yeah.
But yes, definitely Mrs. Kennedy. I think Mr. O'Meara. I'm trying to think. Maybe Mrs. Lehman. Not sure how long Mrs. Lehman's been here. I'm trying to think of some people that have been here for a while. Oh, maybe Dr. Hirsch. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look because it's hard to believe that's 17 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. You guys were just barely born at that time. So yeah.
For this last question, I'm pretty sure you already answered it. It's like, do you prefer one building over the other? So I'm going to change it to. How's the students adapted to the change throughout the 2 different buildings that you saw?
Well, my son, who graduated from Bishop, he was, I'm trying to think how it played out now. He was he graduated in 03. So, I'm trying to remember, did he go? I told you my memory's bad, man. I had to go back and look at a yearbook.
I think it would be 2000 would have been his freshman year.
Yeah, that's what I have to go back and look at a yearbook or something. So he might have been the one that the first class that actually came here freshman year and then went all 4 years here and then graduated. Our daughters came later. I don't remember it being a huge issue for those students who were maybe a year or 2 in at Link Road and then came over here. A little bit harder to, it's bigger. It's still not that big, but it was a bigger building, and we got a little bit lost. I'm just going to get some water. But that's something that it's like coming in as a freshman. I mean, you give it a week or 2, and you got to figure it out. It's not like it's going to be an ongoing thing. I know that when they were building the building, they were supposed to over the cafeteria. That was supposed to be extended all the way out. That was supposed to be like this floor was supposed to just keep going, all the way out over the cafeteria, and they ran over on the expenses or something like that and had to start making some cuts. So that was one of the things that they cut. Now I had heard that when they built the cafeteria, it's been built such that it could support them
Yeah.
extending it out in the future. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but I don't remember. I'm sure for the families, especially the families coming from Winston, I'm sure that did require quite an adjustment as far as the drive goes, because you're used to driving 5 minutes and now you're driving 20 to 30. But we've done it, and it seems to be going fine.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you guys from? You from Greensboro? Or?
I'm from Stokesdale.
Stokesdale.
High Point.
Okay, High Point. See, we're even closer to High Point.
Mm-hmm.
What's your drive, like 15, 20? Or?
Like 15, 13 minutes.
Yeah. So I think, as far as choosing the site, and it was interesting back in the day when they first talked about building the new school. Everybody was speculating about, well, where is it going to be? Where are they going to put it? And it's like anything, when it's unfamiliar to you and you're not used to it. When you first drove out here, you think, my gosh, that's really far, and then after you do it a couple times, you're like, it's only a couple exits on 40,
Yeah.
It's only like 10, 15 minutes from Mercy, so it's really not bad. How many, and you said you just have one interview? Just
one interview.
And each group has a different person or a different slant on it or something?
They can either choose, like, you can do anything that has to do with the diocese, like you can do a priest,
Okay,
a father.
okay,
It's like,
gotcha.
yeah.
Well, I'm sorry I couldn't remember how long some of those other folks have been here, like Mr. Amira, Mrs. Lehman, Doc, Mr. Kep. I forgot about Mr. Kep. I think he was at the old building. He's been here for a good long time. As I kind of go down the list, it'd be kind of interesting to just to see how long everybody's been here. It'd be easy to find out.
You got any more questions, Sergio?
Did it affect enrollment when you guys moved?
Well, that's an excellent question. I'm sure you could go back. You could probably go back and look at the records or the archives or whatever and see what our enrollment was, the year before and then what it was the year after. I haven't really paid that much attention to it. I just kind of get in my own little world in here, and I don't remember. I know. I know we were excited when we got over 500 enrollment, and we were increasing every year. I know we've run into a little bit of a glitch here these last couple of years. I'm sure you know that the couple of the incoming classes have been smaller. How many is in your guys' class?
Like 127.
Okay, see that's good. That's pretty solid. And I know that the building. I think the building was built for 800. I think the capacity is actually 800.
This building?
Yeah. I mean, you could picture it with 800 in it, but I'm pretty sure that's the number that they were looking for. Down the line eventually. It seems to me like we've grown fairly steady over the years, and again, it's been 17 years. We're increasing by maybe like 20 to 40 students per year, but still kind of a steady upward trend.
Yeah.
And we've run into a little bit of a snag here these last couple of years, and I think it'll come back.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. I'm sure somewhere they got to have the records of what the
Yeah.
enrollment has been every
Definitely.
year. It'd be interesting to look at. You guys are going to have to write a paper on this, or do a presentation, or?
We just have to, not a presentation, we just have to turn in the Dr. D, or Dr. O.
Dr. O, you got to
Yeah.
turn in your findings, and then you're going to put it all together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just making an archive.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
that's it.
That's cool.
All right.